I work in a hospital call center. It's not great work, but it pays the bills. Though you may not think it. You get a lot of calls during an 8-hour shift. Usually it's just people trying to find a relative who might be there, or someone trying to schedule an appointment in the surgery department, or maybe even people seeking medical advice. I'm apparently not qualified to do any other things, so the job became a lot of telling people one moment while I transfer you, and then they're either sent to the desired department or not, and you get to talk to them again, except less polite. You get a lot of angry people too, most of them looking for billing department because the hospital dared to charge them for their services. Those people are best sent off quickly before they can get a good head of steam under them, you know. There are 4 to 6 of us in the basement at any given time. It's mostly college kids trying to pay their bills, older people looking for a little extra on top of Social Security. All in all, I think around 10 of us work the switchboard, and you get to know your coworkers pretty well when there's so few of you. We take turns covering the midnight shift. Most of us work in the day or mid-shift primarily. And at the end of the month, we all walk away with a nice chunk of overtime for our trouble. People being people. There's always 12 or 16 hours of overtime a month. No one minds much. The job's easy, and I used to really like having a job where I could finish my schoolwork or play on my phone for 8 to 16 hours, and I could still get paid. That was before the heavy breather. Not a week went by where he didn't get at least one notation in the logbook. The notations were supposed to be for strange or unusual calls. For the last few months, most of the entries had been a heavy breather. We had named the caller because their calls were all pretty much the same. You'd pick up the phone, you'd hear the telltale heavy breathing on the other end, and know what was going on. We all just figured it was some pervert, some lonely sicko trying to get his rocks off to someone on the other end, and you'd hang up before he could get the satisfaction, make a note of it in the logbook. Now, I say these things like they were regular occurrences, but in truth, I had yet to get the mystery caller myself. Every other operator had gotten them at least twice, sometimes 3 or 4, but I never managed to see what all the fuss was about. Well, I would get my wish 3 days later. 3 days of midnights? My boss shrugged at me as she sank the pushpins into the bulletin board. She posted our schedule by hand every week, despite the rest of the hospital having access to electronic payroll systems that generates the schedule for the week. Martha is old school. Probably been here since they pulled her out of the foundation when they broke ground. She's one of the best bosses that I've ever had. Doesn't like how short-handed we are any more than we do. Sorry. Roger says he's taking the weekend off to go visit his boyfriend. He's always doing this on such short notice. I swear I'd have fired him on the spot if we weren't so short-handed. Still, I protested. All 3 nights? You're the only one with an open schedule, kid? I'll give you next week off if you want it. Scout's honor. Martha made the promise so freely that I took her up on it in a heartbeat. A promise from Martha was worth its weight in gold. She couldn't have known that this would likely be the last weekend I ever sat behind the desk. Friday night went normally. I arrived at 11 p.m., brewed a thermos of coffee, got to my desk around 11:15. Jordan and Aiden were there, finishing up their calls or cleaning up their stations as they waited for midnight. We chatted a little as I logged on, discussing call volumes and talking about tonight's call-in schedule. Apparently, there was a team I needed to call in at 4 a.m. for a 5 a.m. case. They added the heavy breather had been calling a lot today. They don't say anything. They just keep calling about once an hour like they're looking for someone. Pam swears she heard them say a name before they hung up, but Pam likes to make stuff up for attention. Got a little excited when Jordan told me that. If they were calling more often, then maybe I'd get to talk to them. I know it's weird to hope that a crazy pervert will call up and breathe on the phone, but I really wanted the experience. I felt like it would make me like everyone else, and I was a little sore that I hadn't gotten them yet. I'd get my wish about an hour later. It was about 12:30 when they called. I was sitting in the call center basement, sipping coffee, checking Reddit on my phone, when I heard the computer chirp and inform me that I had a call. was from an unlisted number, not that uncommon, so I picked it up without thinking much of it. When I picked it up, it sounded like someone was sitting too close to a fan. The blowing was annoying, but I was a professional. I tried to power through it. Southwest Medical Center, how may I help you? The noise on the other end sounded slightly different. I realized all at once that it was the rain coming down hard on a window somewhere. I mean, it hadn't been when I came in. Hadn't been a cloud in the sky. The rain covered it slightly, but as I sat in silence, I began to hear the deep breathing on the other end. There he was. There was the weird caller. Hello? Southwest Medical, can I help you? The breathing persisted, overtopped by the rain that hit hard on the windows of wherever they were. I reached for the book to start scribbling down the usual message when I heard something over the phone. I heard a voice. I'm sorry? I asked, taken aback. It's always dark here. The pen fell out of my hand. No one had ever heard this person talk before. It was always just a heavy breathing for a couple of minutes before they hung up. Had they been waiting for something? I wondered for a moment if they'd talked before and maybe no one had told me. Was I the first one that they'd talked to? It's always dark here, they repeated. And this time I stopped thinking and started listening. Who are you? I asked, not sure what else to say. The rain is so loud tonight, they said. The voice was neither male nor female and sounded low and growly like someone getting over a cold. Look, I'm not sure who you are, but you've called a hospital. If you need some help, I'll be happy to help you, but otherwise I need to... Cherish says hi, the voice whispered. That made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I had a sister named Cherish. She was about 12 as far as I knew. She was asleep at my parents' house. I shook off the fear and I began to become angry. I mean, whoever this was, they were obviously having a laugh on my account. It really wasn't funny. Who is this? Roger, if this is you, then I swear to God, I'm going to go to HR. This isn't even a little bit funny and you need to stop. That's when the line went dead. I held the phone against my ear for a few more seconds before putting in the cradle and looking around nervously. I expected Roger or Jordan to pop out of the break room with their cell phone laughing because they had spooked me. All the company I got, though, was the sound of the air conditioning cycling overhead. I sat for a few more minutes, drumming my fingers, trying to forget the call. The more I thought about it, the weirder it got, though. My coworkers would have called back to make fun of me if this had been a prank, but and if it wasn't them, then some stranger on the phone had called up and said my sister's name. I mean, coincidence or not, I needed to be sure. My mom picked up on the fourth ring, and I could hear Dad grumbling in the background. Hello? She asked blearily. Mom, hey, sorry, is Cherish okay? I know it's a weird question, but... I could hear Mom sitting up in bed. You okay? You sound upset. Please just answer me. Is Cherish okay? I don't know, hon. She's at sleepaway camp this weekend. My blood ran cold. Hey, I need you to call down there and make sure she's okay. Hun, what's all this about? She asked groggily. I got a weird call a minute ago, and now I have to make sure that she's okay. My phone rang. I looked at the number. Unknown name and unknown number. Couldn't be them again. Mom, I need to call you back. Just promise that you'll call the camp, make sure she's okay. Mom said that she would. I hung up. I picked up the incoming call. I was immediately bombarded by the sound of rain on glass and muffled heavy breathing. The caller's voice sounded watery, slurry, like they'd been choked on some water. They sounded like someone with a sore throat and a bad case of pneumonia. Like a drowned person. Hello? Hello? Who is this? Cherish needs your help. I gritted my teeth and tried not to scream into the phone. Whoever this is, you need to stop. I'm not amused. You're not funny. I want you to... He's gone to get her. She thinks he's her friend. But he isn't. He wants to hurt her. You have to stop her. Who's gone to get her? The woodsman. He's a bad man, and he wants your sister. I didn't have the slightest idea who this person was talking about. Whatever their game was, I was starting to freak out. Look, this isn't funny. If this is a joke or something, it's really gone to... The line went dead, and I was left with static. I spent the next hour in a fitful state. I didn't want to call Mom back and bother her with this, but what if whoever that wasn't kidding around? I mean, surely my sister wasn't stupid enough to just go off with someone in the woods, right? I didn't know. The lack of knowledge made me nervous. I began to feel the walls of the basement closing in on me. The claustrophobic feeling made me shake. When the phone rang again, I caught it on the first ring without even looking. Hello? I could hear the quaver in my voice. The rain was softer now, but the voice was no less intrusive. He has her! It all but screamed at me. I thought I could hear someone in the background crying and screaming just under the raspy husk. He's hurting her! Please hurry! Where are you? I screamed, leaning forward as though I could fall into the computer screen. Where is he taking her? If this was a prank, I was buying in hook, line, and sinker. I could hear someone, a small girl, it sounded like, screaming and crying as someone did God knows what to her. My cell phone roared to life. I looked down to see that it was Mom and picked it up without thinking. Mom was hysterical on the other end. She and Dad were in the car, driving up to the camp. The counselors had gone to check on Cherish and found her bed empty. What's more, they found muddy boot tracks going into her cabin and then leaving out the same way. They can't seem to track them. The rain here has been torrential, but the state police are bringing in tracking dogs and they're going to get started as soon as they can. She's in the woods, Mom. Someone has her, I sputtered, still hearing the screams on the phone. Mom was silent for a few breaths. How do you know that? I got a caller on the phone who says that she's alive, but it sounds like he's hurting her and they're in the woods, Mom. Tell them to search the woods. She hung up on me, and when I picked up the phone, it had gone dead again. I sat in silence and felt utterly impotent. Should I leave? Should I go get help? Should I help them look? My job wasn't really the thing holding me here. I was sure people would understand if I abandoned my post, but I was hoping that the mystery caller would give me more information. Every second counted now. If my information could help them find her a little quicker, then all the better. I muddled through a few late-night calls while I waited, and I'm sure the people on the other end could tell that I was tense. After an hour, Mom called to let me know that they had arrived. The rain had made it very difficult for the dogs to find the trail, but they had started searching the woods anyway. The police were confident they could locate her, but Mom wasn't so sure. She sounded scared and tired and just plain defeated. When she hung up, I stared at the phone on the desk and willed the mystery caller to call me. They'd been so chatty before. Why had they gone silent now? I pulled up call logs on my computer and started trying to find the number. No name, no number was all I ever got, though. I know in movies the police could easily decode these private numbers, but I work for a hospital, not even the emergency part of the hospital. My resources were limited to what I could do on the out-of-date computer I had been given to work with. When the phone rang 20 minutes later, I looked at the number and almost knocked it off the desk in my haste. No name, no number. Hello? Hello? Where are you? I need you to... He's killing her. The voice whispered harshly. He's trying to make it last, but he's killing her. Where are you? The police are looking for her, but I need to know where you are. The voice went silent for a moment, and I thought that I had lost them again. On the other end, I could hear whimpering, and the person making those noises sounded broken. Hot tears ran down my face as I listened to what could be my sister's final breaths. I began to beg the voice to tell me where they were. I laid my head against the desk and cried, letting the tears flow as the voice seemed to contemplate how to answer me. When I played here, it was about a mile from the camp. Over the creek, past the blackberry fields, and up a little hill. His house is at the top of that hill. I have been here for so long, though. I don't know if any of those things are still there. Please hurry. She doesn't have much longer. The line went dead. I called my mom. I gave her the information. When she relayed it to some of the counselors, they knew exactly where she was talking about. The house belonged to the groundskeeper, and he had lived there for a long time. She said the police were on their way to check on it. She asked me to thank the person on the phone if they called back. I waited for an hour, another long and agonizing hour, and when the cell phone rang, the number made my skin crawl. Unknown name, unknown caller. Were they calling my cell phone this time? I mean, that seemed unlikely. When I picked it up, I was greeted not by the raspy voice of a sick child, but by the stony voice of an officer, Darroway, from the state police. He told me they'd found Cherish and the groundskeeper in his cabin. She's not in a good way. Bastion uses time that he had for some pretty upsetting things. She's alive. We're sending her by life flight to the nearest hospital. That's the one you work at, I believe. I thanked him. Told him to tell my parents that I'd be waiting for her when she got here. Mom tells us you've been in contact with another child and they gave you directions to find your sister. Yeah, she called out of the blue. I don't know how they knew my number. He was silent for a moment. You forgive me for saying so. That seems highly unlikely. I started. How do you mean? Groundskeeper didn't have a phone in his cabin. His cell phone was on his person when we covered him. There's no one else in the cabin. That's impossible. They said that they'd been there for a very long time. They've been calling for weeks. Look, I appreciate you helping us find your sister. This whole story seems very far-fetched. That being said, I don't think we would have found your sister without your help. I want to take a statement from you when we get there. But just know that we don't consider you in any way connected to this, despite the oddness of your claim. I thanked him. He thanked me before hanging up. I was getting ready to call Marta, 6 a.m. person who should be coming in early to retrieve me, when a familiar caller popped up on my screen. No name, no number. I picked it up as I prepared to thank the caller for their help. I just started thanking them when I heard the heavy breathing on the other end stop. The sound was completely different. The caller had a husky voice to his breathing, and you could clearly hear their breaths jagging up and down as they went about whatever they were doing. This wasn't a child's breathing, but this was an adult. I hung up the call before I could think about it too much. I sat there in a daze as I pulled the call log towards me. I logged a heavy breather, but I thought for a moment about recording the other calls too. I mean, they had saved my sister's life, whoever they've been. Thought better of adding them to the log. I called Marta. I told her what had happened. She agreed to come in for me. Said I'd see her soon before I hung up. I'm sitting with my sister in the ICU as I write this, but I can't help but wonder who that mystery caller was. I mean, how did they call me? How did they know where to find me? My sister's heavily sedated right now, but I'm a little afraid of what she might tell me when she comes to. Does she know who the caller is? Did she tell them how to contact me? I'm afraid to go back to work now. I'm afraid of who else might call me when I'm manning the desk again. What other lost souls might be just a phone call away? Times have been tough for me, so I haven't quite updated everything as I would have liked in the past couple of months. I'm finally getting back to the swing of things as my life continues to normalize. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and honestly, I see all of your comments and your support as I've been talking about what's been happening with me, and I want to tell you all thank you so much for that, because it's been rough, and seeing your support has been life-saving. So thank you all so much for it. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. That includes everybody who's been waiting for me to update my Patreon, and I thank you all so much for being so patient with me. But especially, I want to give a thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Tristain, Pelton, Chase Burnett, Diana Kraus, Justin Lafontaine, Broken Beast 320, Bastion Beefcake, Jeff the Killer's Cultist, Adam Gerecke, Love You MNN, M, INSANITYGamerX, Jordan Humble, Jesus Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, Amber Clark, Kearns, Mike, Little Crow, himbojerry, SamaHigh, CrusaderChocobo, Atomaurus, Grand Moth the Milky, Captain Scurvy, Estebean, Raiden Morris, Nate Cull, Our Time, Angelus, Seclude, Lupita Galvin, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier the Cheyenne, 6 Gay Rats in a Trench Coat, Turtle Man, Rob Like Sharp Things, Carolinian, Zachary Graphius, Lord Life's Best, Goreg Nikolai Megacy, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Aka Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Shelly J, Vicamel, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Croconut 509, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Cryptic Nightmares, Kira the Sloth, Fester Lampshade, Nico Kaio, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, Corey Kenshin, Mr. Diamond One, and Peaceful Buddha. If you would like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, then please head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, or you can always check out the names in the description down below, and I appreciate it infinitely. So thank you all on Patreon, thank you all so much, and to everyone, sweet dreams.